This video covers factoring a quadratic when a equals 1. I also just have nicknamed them easy trinomials because these problems are a little bit easier than when a is not a 1. You also don't have to go through so many steps to figure out the answer. But referring to the a, when you have a quadratic, when it's in standard form, the coefficient in front of the x squared is called the a. The coefficient in front of the x is the b, and then the last number is the constant c. So whenever you want to factor, you want to break it into the two parentheses that if you FOIL will get you back to this answer. So notice I already have parentheses ready for both of these problems. You know when there is no number in front of this x squared, it's an understood 1. So in order to FOIL, to multiply these two first terms to get this x squared, you would have to have an x in the front of both parentheses. Also, something you want to notice is both signs in this problem are plus. When both signs are plus, that means both signs in this problem will also be plus. So go to the back number. The question you ask is, what multiplies to give you 32 that would add to give you 12? So you want to go back to that 32 and think about all the factors of 32. What multiplies to give you 32? A 1 times 32, a 2 times 16, 4 times 8, and then out of those combinations, do any of those, if you were to add them, give you 12? Well, hopefully you thought about the 4 and the 8. Now, if we want to check this, we would think about FOILing. X times x is x squared. X times 8 is 8x. 4 times x is 4x. And then 4 times 8 is 32. Middle terms would give you the 12x. X squared plus 12x plus 32. Notice how this looks like the problems from our solving by grouping. If I were to group these first two terms and these second two terms and take out the GCFs, guess what? I would get this. So we're going to go to that type of method of solving these when we get to the harder trinomials, when a is not equal to 1. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly check to see if I got back to this problem. And sure enough, 8x plus 4x gives me 12x. So on this problem again, you know that the front two terms need to multiply to give you x squared, so they would have to be x and x. This time my sign is minus minus. On a minus minus problem, you do not have a minus and a minus. When you go to the back term, if that term is a minus, these two have to be the opposites. So one needs a plus and one needs a minus. We need to think about everything that multiplies to give us 30 and then would subtract. So that's going to tell us if we're going to add or subtract to get a negative 7. So what are the things that multiply to give us 30? 30 times 1, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 6 times 5. Out of those combinations, which ones would subtract to give you a 7? 10 and 3. Now let's think about these. Negative 10 times positive 3 is a negative 30. Negative 10 plus 3 is a negative 7. So this fits our combination. It does not matter. I can put the negative 10 here and switch and put the positive 3 there. It doesn't matter. These two can go into either spot. And if you wanted to know if you were right, you could FOIL or use the box method, whatever method you know how to multiply binomials. So let's go to the next slide. So now I have a problem with a plus minus. It's all about this back term. If this back term is a minus, when I set up my parenthesis, the two signs are going to be opposites. So we know we need an x and an x. So stop the video for a second. See if you can come up with a combination of what would multiply to give you a negative 30 and subtract, the sign tells you whether you're going to add or subtract, to give you a positive, and there's an understood 1. So a positive 1x. So in that last problem, I mentioned everything that multiplies to give you 30. 30 times 1, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 6 times 5. Out of those combinations, which ones would subtract to give you a 1? Well, it would be a 6 and a 5. Now, if I had put the plus here and the minus in front of the 6, that would give me a minus 1x. So that's why I need the 6 to be positive. So when you're trying to decide what sign needs to go on these, you know you're going to subtract and they need to be opposite signs. Whatever sign this is, it needs to go on the larger of the two numbers. So positive 6 and negative 5. Positive 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Positive 6 minus 5 is a positive 1. Okay, stop the video and see if you can answer this last question. So there's the parentheses. We need an x and an x. This time my last sign is a positive. When your last sign is a positive, these two signs will be the same. If this were a positive, they would both be positive. Since this is a minus, these will both be minus. When I say positive, I also mean plus, a plus sign. So what multiplies to give you 6 that would add to give you a negative 5? So both signs need to be negative. So a minus 3 or a negative 3 and a minus 2 or a negative 2. Negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6. Negative 3 plus negative 2 is a minus 5 or a negative 5. So if you were to FOIL this, it would get you back to this trinomial. So one last thing, a little refresher on all the signs. Let's make this a little bigger. So I was just wanting to put a problem up. If your last sign is a plus, in your parentheses, you will have the same sign. So these are the different types of situations. Notice these two. If your last sign is a plus, these two in the parentheses will be the same as this first sign. So both of them are minus when this is a minus. Both of them are plus if this is a plus. If both signs are minus, basically, this last sign tells you they're going to be opposites. But if both signs are minus, we know they're going to be opposite signs. This sign goes to the larger number when you're thinking of your combination. So you would want to put the larger of the two numbers with the minus sign. If your last sign is a minus and your first sign is a plus, the larger of the two numbers, when you figure out that combination, will go here with the plus sign.